At the D23 Expo in 2017, Disney showed concept art of an updated Future World, though they provided little details on the refresh. This, though, was not the first time Imagineers have tried to update Future World. It was to be called Discoveryland. My name is Sam, and welcome to Expedition Extinct. It's hard to recall a single park in existence in the world that has had so many identities planned for it throughout its lifetime. Epcot on opening day in 1982 was groundbreaking. Imagineers had taken the experimental prototype Community of Tomorrow that Walt had designed as the city of the future and created a park that had core concepts of educating while entertaining guests. A permanent World's Fair. Massive pavilions showing a variety of concepts, a corporate-sponsored mix of ideas including transportation, land, imagination, and more. These sponsors will be in charge of the upkeep and updating the pavilions, and no company wants to show off outdated technology at such a popular destination. Also, of course, we have to mention the Pavilions of World Showcase, where countries around the world would show off their culture, cuisine, and innovations, where again the private companies with affiliations to the represented country sponsored the pavilions, and were staffed mostly by citizens of those countries themselves in a Q1 visa agreement, myself included. According to Disney folklore, one day these two ideas of a future world and a world showcase were pushed together into one park. When you think about it, it really is an odd mix of concepts that I don't think would exist if built today. The idea behind the park seemed ingenious, a win-win essentially, but the only major issue was that the key backbone of the park, this sponsorship system, didn't work. It began with General Electric, the original sponsor of Walt's Carousel of Progress, now sponsoring its spiritual successor, Horizons. In 1993, the ride lost GE's sponsorship, which then operated without update or upkeep until it closed permanently in 1999. The same year, Kraft dropped its sponsorship of the park's land pavilion. Luckily, Nestle came in and altered the rides to better suit their own products and services. The same was happening to Wonders of Life. When MetLife dropped sponsorship in 2001, the pavilion lost the life support keeping it afloat. Epcot's Future World has been suffering an identity crisis since the mid-90s, with attempts to change the area from its educational focus to a more thrilling park, and even today we see this weird mix of concepts still exist. Worse though was Kodak's Imagination Pavilion. They continued to update the ride, but with such a poor budget that the dark ride became a horrible, hated version of itself, destroying all the love for the original. Similar happenings again over at Universe of Energy occurred when it lost its sponsor in 2004 and stopped being maintained. And we all unfortunately know what's going to be replacing that. Yikes. Why did this sponsorship system fail? Well, originally this corporate sponsor system was appealing. If you picture a large trade expo or the World's Fair, people from around the world came to see the latest offerings these companies could provide. Epcot also offered the perfect opportunity for the companies to connect with the public, but things were changing. By the 21st century, information was more accessible than ever. The wealth gap had grown and people were not so forgiving of multi-million pound companies. Did people really want to hear ExxonMobil talk to them about energy? Or listen to the old style Kodak show its product in a continuing digital age? A company on the brink of bankruptcy couldn't really justify spending money on updating its theme park ride. The results of this meant that the front of Epcot's ever-updating Future World just stopped being updated. No longer educational with its relics from the past, a new approach was needed and Imagineers came up with it. Its codename was Project Gemini. Lacking investments in the old outdated rides looking like they were still in the 1980s, which didn't have the use of Disney characters to hide their flaws, a new identity was created. 2006 was going to be the year of change. From October 1st, 2006, Future World would be no more. The front of Epcot would now be called Discoveryland. No longer would the constant need to update the area be required to keep in line with the name Future World. To get this name accepted by guests, the area would receive a bold new look. The concrete look would be replaced by trees. Lots and lots of trees. Epcot's Discoveryland would be a lush green environment, not the boring beige of Future World, similar to the idea that Michael Eisner sold to Imagineers on his vision for the new Tomorrowland. If you have also seen the plans for the original Westcott Center over in California, you may also see some of the inspiration for Project Gemini came from there also. Entering the park, things still looked somewhat familiar. Spaceship Earth still up ahead, but you can no longer walk under the left side. Sorry, no more purple wall here. It was to be enclosed and now serves as a pre-show and queue area for a brand new attraction inside. This attraction was to be called Time Racers, Epcot's newest and greatest thrill ride, and was rumoured to be sponsored by Microsoft. Spaceship Earth will be completely emptied out. No more omni-mover through the history of man. Instead, a steel roller coaster would take its place. The idea for the attraction would be that you would be travelling through space and time, through the history of man and into the future. This high-speed thrill ride would use projections to take you to many different settings and eras before arriving back in present-day Epcot. What better way to show that Project Gemini was removing the educational aspect of the park than a major thrill ride inside the park's icon? The ride would also move outside of Spaceship Earth for the outside section ending in the global neighborhood. And why change Spaceship Earth? Well, basically it has barely changed for over 20 years. Sure, the narration had been updated as well as the ending, but the ride is still the same. If you have ever visited Epcot in the past, you knew what you were getting inside. How many people at Rope Drop head straight to Spaceship Earth rather than Test Track or these days Soarin', offering that much more thrilling experience? Epcot has also been known to currently offer nothing to under 18s, and this plan would change that. This would be a thrill ride right at the front of the park. Project Gemini wanted to pile on the thrills. An inverted roller coaster was planned right outside the Land Pavilion. The roller coaster would take guests on a trip through a simulated rainforest. The entrance to the land would be through this lush rainforest. Next to this, plans were in place to bring Disney's California Adventure attraction Soarin' Over California to Florida with an updated movie. For a slower paced experience, a hedge maze was planned in the southwestern corner of Discoveryland, between the land and the Imagination Pavilion. The central plaza would be a forested plaza, built around the current Fountain of Nations, still dancing away to music. The Living Seas plan pre-Nemo was to be themed to The Little Mermaid. Ariel and friends would host the renamed Under the Sea Pavilion, which actually sounds like a great idea to me, rather than the Nemo theme we have today. It was expected that the dark ride was similar to the Little Mermaid ride we eventually got in Magic Kingdom, except with a more educated undertone. This new pavilion would stress the importance of living in harmony with the world's oceans. Over by Test Track, a new addition nearby would bring over an old Disneyland favourite, the Junior Autopia, a child-friendly ride nearby for those who are too young to ride Test Track. Discoveryland's Universe of Energy would remain as the Ellen ride in the plans, as well as Mission Space, of course, since it would not have long opened when these plans were aimed to become reality, and in the planning stages at the time. One not so lucky area was the Wonders of Life Pavilion, or well, I guess you could say lucky with the state of the place these days. The site plans showed that the site would be used for a future expansion, but at least something was planned for it other than the festival centre. At the time of the plans though, Wonders of Life was still open and had lost its sponsor 2 years earlier. Merchandise areas would mostly be located in the old Innoventions, with a rather severe makeover. The roofs that connected these old buildings would be removed, and instead of 2 crescent-shaped buildings, they would become 6 separate, smaller buildings. To the east, you had Leading Edge, featuring exhibits of the latest and greatest in scientific breakthroughs. The Robot Restaurant, which would feature BattleBot-like shows, and also the Future Mart, the new Mouse Gears or Centaurium selling Disney merchandise. To the west was Home of the Future, which was rumoured to house the animatronics from the Carousel of Progress, which in these plans was planned to close. the Internet Cafe, which was surprisingly an internet cafe, and Cool Stuff, which would house cool consumer products. While not confirmed in the plans as part of Project Gemini, it was also rumoured that World Showcase would be updated, with a long-rumoured Switzerland pavilion with Matterhorn-style ride being built between Germany and Italy, now rumoured in 2018 to become a Brazil pavilion. On the other side of American Adventure, a second mountain would rise as the Japan pavilion would gain a Mount Fuji roller coaster. So, as you can see, this planned revamp of Future World was ambitious. It wasn't just going to be a new Interventions which tried to pretend it was a revamp of the original, or worse yet, a Guardians of the Galaxy ride. Ugh. People working on the project hoped it would be the lifesaver the park needed. So, what stopped this project from being greenlit? Well, really one thing: money. While the idea seemed to be loved by Imagineers, the cost of the project was expected to be around $500 million, which, considering Mission Space cost $100 million a few years before, doesn't seem so bad for all that was offered. Alas, it was heard that Paul Pressler, the former head of Disney Parks and Resorts, turned down Disney Imagineering plans for Project Gemini when he first saw them back in 2002. And that while he liked the ideas, the scope was too big and expensive. After he left and Jay Rizzullo took over, he reportedly responded with great enthusiasm and saw a way to fix Future World once and for all. The final decision, though, came down to one man, CEO Michael Eisner, and he wasn't prepared to spend that amount of money. In the years since, only band-aids have been applied to Future World to update it, but it still really is just a jumbled mess of attractions at the start of 2018. Some aspects of Project Gemini, though, did become a reality. The land did get soaring in 2005, minus the updated movie. It took till 2016 to get that. The Living Seas did get a character makeover, even though it wasn't The Little Mermaid, and Mission Space was completed as planned, but the majority of Project Gemini never came to be. Or did it? Even though we never got this version, does remnants of this past project exist in this new concept art for Future World? Epcot continues to be marketed as the Discovery Park, and characters continue to be added around the park. France will get Ratatouille, and some kind of ride is constantly rumoured for the UK pavilion. And of course, Guardians of the Galaxy will be coming. Ugh. The education theme, though, is certainly no more. None of Project Gemini was ever officially confirmed, but the park's new concept art shows the removal of interventions, a large tropical forest of trees added, and is that a hedge maze? Maybe it does exist. Are these remnants from Project Gemini and further proof that it existed? We won't really know until we get more information, but one thing is for sure, a change is coming to Future World and it is badly needed. Thank you so much for watching this video. What do you think of these plans for Future World? Would you have liked to have seen Project Gemini? And how can the current Future World be fixed? If you enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe. Be sure to check out our other series, Expedition Epcot, where we take a look through the past, present and future of the park. And we will see you next time.